We are going to explore the topic of autistic burnout. Before I burn out, let's go. Welcome. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. I'm Orion Kelly, that autistic guy. I'm all about helping you raise your level of understanding, acceptance, and appreciation of the autistic community. And I've got some pretty awesome community members. Probably the best you're going to find on the planet, my friends. So just by subscribing to my channels, you join an amazing YouTube community. Let's explore the topic of autistic burnout. You know what? This is probably the most comprehensive video I have ever done. We're going to talk about what is autistic burnout, what causes it. Plus, I'll give you strategies to avoid it, or if you're in it, navigate your way out of it. And remember, I'm not a doctor or a healthcare professional. I'm just an autistic guy, providing my own personal lived experiences and general discussion. Autistic burnout is a state of mental, physical, and emotional exhaustion. Typically for an autistic person, it happens when the demands and challenges of everyday life, along with the other difficulties associated with being an autistic person, become overwhelming, reach a critical mass. Autistic burnout can occur when someone has simply been pushing themselves too far or too hard and for too long, or simply trying to meet the expectations and demands of a neurotypical world. And this can happen in so many areas of life. School, work, social interactions, even sensory environments, just mere environments with sensory challenges. Constantly pushing ourselves as autistic people to meet these expectations without adequate or any kind of support or understanding can lead to autistic burnout. We may experience increased stress, anxiety, and sensory overload, just to name a few. We may also struggle to cope with everyday tasks and responsibilities, and our overall ability to function will decline. So what causes autistic burnout? Here are some examples of situations or experiences that can cause autistic burnout. Attending a noisy or crowded social event for an extended period of time. Do you ever force yourself to just stay a little bit longer because of some sort of peer pressure or expectations? Trying to maintain a consistent routine while dealing with unexpected changes. Having to mask or camouflage your autistic traits, your true autistic self, for long periods of time in order to fit in socially. Overwhelming academic or work demands without appropriate support. Dealing with sensory overload from things like bright lights, strong smells, or my favorite, loud noises. Navigating complex social interactions and trying to understand unwritten social rules. Constantly trying to interpret non-verbal cues and things like facial expressions in social interactions. Coping with transitions between different activities or environments. Facing a high pressure and fast-paced work or school environment. Another cause of autistic burnout. Maybe you're on public transport a lot. Managing sensory sensitivities while using public transport builds up day by day. Coping with those kind of things, like crowded places, public transport, but also other sensory sensitivities. Like flickering lights, bright lights, fluorescent lighting, office work, these kind of environments. Coping with that can really lead to autistic burnout. I mean, just experiencing them could lead to shutdown or meltdown. That continues, it can manifest into burnout. Balancing personal responsibilities and expectations in relationships, another big cause. Experiencing heightened anxiety or stress due to uncertainty or even unexpected changes, another cause. A constant need to adapt to new environments or unfamiliar social situations. Things autistic people do, but it's absolutely going to bank up and could lead to autistic burnout. Handling intense pressure to conform to the expectations and norms of society. Coping with almost constant bullying, discrimination, isolation, social exclusion could cause autistic burnout. Managing the daily demands of multitasking, organizing tasks, managing or organizing projects, struggling to communicate effectively, especially during misunderstandings or conflicts, which is really quite constant for me as an autistic person. Those kind of experiences over time lead to autistic burnout. And dealing with the cumulative effect of prolonged periods of stress and overload without sufficient recovery time can absolutely lead to autistic burnout. But what does autistic burnout feel like, Orion? Okay, you want some examples. Here are some examples of how an autistic person may experience autistic burnout. Feeling mentally and physically exhausted. And I'm talking even after getting what you would class as enough sleep. In other words, there is no such thing as enough sleep. You find it really difficult staying focused or concentrating on tasks. You experience heightened sensory sensitivities. This can include things like, for me at least, becoming overwhelmed or unusually startled by certain noises, lights, textures, smells. Another example of how autistic burnout can feel is being seemingly completely emotionally overwhelmed. Increased anxiety, irritability, and meltdowns. Remember, meltdowns lead to autistic burnout. But then when you are in autistic burnout, it's significantly harder to avert, to stop meltdowns from occurring. Struggling to process information or experiencing cognitive overload. Oh man. Finding it challenging to communicate effectively. Even a difficulty in finding words. I hate when this happens. Burnout is a big trigger for that. You may lose interest or even motivation for activities, interests, passions, things that you previously enjoyed before burnout. You don't even want to do the good stuff. You can experience physical symptoms, things like headaches, stomach aches, brain, gut, connected. Muscle tension, big one for me, due to the stress of autistic burnout. A total and complete withdrawal from any kind of social interactions for a preference of solitude, being alone. A further loss of executive function skills. The stuff that's already hard is almost impossible now. Planning, organizing, time management, problem solving. Don't get me started on problem solving during autistic burnout. You can experience a real difficulty with decision making. You may even feel paralyzed by choices. Choices bad. Experiencing a decline in self-care practices, a big sign of autistic burnout. An example of this is a complete neglect of your own personal hygiene. Feeling a sense of overwhelm from constant change or unexpected disruptions. Becoming hyper-focused on a particular topic or interest as a way to escape, as a way to cope with burnout. Another example of how autistic burnout feels. You'll also experience a decrease in your tolerance for any kind of change and an increased need in your routine, in the sameness of your life, in predictability. You will definitely feel a complete lack of motivation, or what you could describe as this sense of a brain fog. You experience this heightened sensitivity to things like interactions. So an example could be a perception of being criticized or attacked that's heightened. You may sense rejection more intensely, more easily. Another example of experiencing autistic burnout is simply struggling at work, at school, at home, in your personal relationships. Everything's a struggle. You can feel a sense of disconnect, of detachment from yourself and the world around you. There's a real sense of hopelessness, of despair. Some may argue depression, sadness, as a result of this chronic burnout. You may feel overwhelmed by daily tasks, even daily responsibilities that in your mind, neurotypical people seem to find easy, manageable. Experiencing difficulties around time management or feeling this intense pressure around deadlines, another example of how autistic burnout can feel. Struggling to process or even filter out like background noise, distractions, becoming easily overloaded. You can find it really challenging to initiate or even sustain conversations, which can then even lead to social exhaustion. On top of the autistic burnout, you can experience heightened anxiety or even panic attacks. Feeling physically drained, even chronically fatigued, another example of how autistic burnout can feel. Difficulties with sleep patterns, insomnia, disrupted sleep. You'll find it even more challenging to adapt to changes in your environment, in your routines, in your daily activities. A big example of how autistic burnout feels is a sense of frustration, a sense of resentment due to this constant effort of having to mask or camouflage autistic traits. Forget about changes to routine. How about transitioning? Hello. Difficulties with transitions results in heightened stress, anxiety, and is absolutely this difficulty with transitions, an experience of autistic burnout. Not just physically drained though, feeling emotionally drained, finding it difficult, near impossible to manage your emotions and express yourself effectively. Another example of how autistic burnout feels. There's this heightened sensitivity to criticism as well. Feedback, negative feedback. Not sure there's a difference in this particular point in time. And the worst part is that's an experience of autistic burnout, but that actually can lead to an extended period. It can contribute to the burnout. Autistic burnout makes it so much more challenging in the navigation of social expectations, social norms, which leads to feeling even more lonely and isolated. It becomes really difficult to self-advocate, and that includes things like setting boundaries. There's this overall sense of exhaustion from the pressures of just having to conform, right? Just having to conform to fit in. You just can't do it. You're just out. Another experience of how autistic burnout feels is an even deeper difficulty in processing and understanding ambiguous or abstract information. You may also feel a sense of constant vigilance, even hypervigilance in social situations. We've talked about what causes it and how it feels, but how do we avoid it? That's a good question. Is it even possible to avoid autistic burnout? Maybe it isn't. In that case, I've also got some strategies to navigate yourself out of actually being in an autistic burnout. But first, let's try and avoid it. Key strategies to help you avoid autistic burnout. Practice self-care regularly. Don't wait till you're burnt out to go, I better care for myself now. So do things that promote relaxation. Do things that make you feel good. Care for yourself. Establish and maintain a consistent routine. If you want to avoid autistic burnout, this is important. You know it's important. So keep it. It provides you with a sense of stability and predictability. Try to set realistic expectations and prioritize your daily tasks in order to avoid becoming overwhelmed, feeling like you're buried in excessive demands. Why put yourself in that in the first place? Instead of waiting till you're burnt out, communicate your needs effectively, openly and honestly to the people in your life now, not later. Set boundaries. Advocate for yourself. Ask for accommodations, inclusions, supports. Don't wait till the world blows up to ask for things to help. As people that are autistic, ADHD, we just want to do something. There can be this fixation on completing tasks. You have to give yourself regular breaks. I know it's hard. You just got to do it. You need time to recharge. You need time to prevent sensory and mental overload. The only way to do that is to give yourself some time. Breaks. Just do it. Another strategy to avoid autistic burnout is to find a strong support network. A group of your safe people. A group of understanding friends, family, your partner, whoever. People who can provide you emotional support, understanding, guidance. Create yourself a sensory-friendly environment at home and, to whatever extent you're allowed to, at work. Use whatever stress management techniques are effective for you. Work out what they are and use them. You have to try and engage in some form of physical activity. It doesn't have to be exercise. Just get your body moving to some degree in a way where I know it's going to make you feel better. You've got to find out and use the kind of sensory regulation things, the tools, the techniques that help you. Could be deep pressure stuff, sensory grounding exercises, sensory diets, whatever works. Identify your triggers. Limit your triggers. I mean things that contribute to your sensory overload, your dysregulation. Delegate stuff. Don't do it all. Delegate tasks. Seek the assistance of others. I know it's hard, but when you're feeling overwhelmed, do it. Practice time management techniques. Executive function isn't a great strength of some autistic people, certainly not mine, but you can still identify what they are and then build them in, right? You can make it part of your routine. You break things down into smaller, manageable steps. You prioritize. You utilize timers, reminders, these types of things. Make sure your routine has the built-in time for things that are important, like alone time, like focusing on your passions and your special interests. We can forget about this. If you don't think that not enough alone time or time with your passions and special interests won't lead to meltdowns and burnout, you're wrong. You have to prioritize your sleep. For some autistic people, we're so intensely invested and passionate about interests and passions, we put off things like self-care things. Like showering, eating, sleeping. That's bad. You really have to work on establishing a good quality, consistent bedtime or sleeping routine. If you want to avoid autistic burnout, that is. Find the communication strategies that are effective, that work for you. Use those. Written communication, verbal communication, social scripts, visual supports and aids. The way you want to communicate, that you like and you find effective, is what you need to do. And if the people in your life don't like that, tell them to get stuffed. Don't just take breaks, but take time for things like sensory breaks. So things that help you regulate your sensory input. For me, it might be getting outside. It might be going to the beach, having a walk, whatever it is that makes you feel good. Start to build a toolkit of coping strategies. Do you want to avoid burnout or not? Because the next bit is you're in it. How do you get out of it? You don't want to be a part of that. So find the toolkit and use it. Add the strategies, the coping strategies that work. Advocate yourself by not only, expressing your boundaries and your needs, but helping others understand them, understand you. I guess in a way, you're educating the people around you, but not in a patronizing way, in a way that, look, this is how autism manifests in my daily challenges. And then try and foster supportive environments. Practicing effective boundary setting, I don't know how many times I'll say it, but I'll say it lots because it's just important. Learn to say no. Simple. Limit the things you're committing yourself to. You just got to have boundaries, mate. Whatever tools work, assistive technologies, whatever, use them. Come on, guys, seriously. These things are there. Whatever works for you to help you, use them now before you get to the burnout. And don't worry about the judgment of others. Whether it's like those weighted toys, weighted cuddle things or blankets or headphones or fidget tools or toys. Who cares what other people think? If this is going to help you avoid burnout, use them. You have to take regular mental health breaks as well. I'm talking breaks that allow you to just be. Just relax, stop, unwind, recharge, engage in things that bring you joy, that reduce stress. Mental health breaks. This might seem a bit like whatever, man, but I think you actually need to prioritize time just to self-reflect, to improve your self-awareness. If you don't understand your own needs, your own triggers, your limits, how will anyone else? So I'm saying prioritize time because you can't just do it, I'm going to do it today. No. On a regular basis, you go, oh, okay, this is a thing now, right? You're reflecting. You're experiencing something. This is really important. If you don't know you, how can you get help from others? How can others know you? They can't. Be open in your communication with others. Open about your needs, your supports, your challenges, preferences. That way you can actually help them understand you, but you can also seek assistance from them. The people that want to help you can and will support you. Incorporate sensory-friendly modifications into your environment. Is the lighting a bit off for you? Is it triggering you? Change the lighting. Seriously, get a globe that isn't so bright. Don't like the feel of the chairs? Get chairs that work for you. Know where to go and have quiet alone time? Find an area and make it a designated quiet alone time space. And the final tip to avoid autistic burnout, before we get to the stuff where it's most relatable, I'm in it, how do I get out of it? Before we get to that, final tip, seek support, not just from safe people, but from therapists, psychologists, professionals. Not only can they provide you with guidance, but they can use their own professional expertise to provide you with potentially things you didn't know were available. Things to add to your toolkit, tailored to your specific needs. Truth is, a lot of autistic people very rarely are able to avoid autistic burnout. So here are some strategies that you can use as an autistic person to navigate your way through and out of autistic burnout. Allow yourself plenty of opportunities to take breaks, to rest. Be kind to yourself. Prioritize your self-care. Give yourself permission to focus on you, on your well-being. Try to gradually reintroduce responsibilities and activities. So you start with small, manageable tasks, and you gradually increase them. Seek and use the support of your safe people, your partner, family, friends, even a therapist or a psychologist, someone who can provide understanding and potentially guidance through your burnout. Practice mindfulness and relaxation techniques. Don't glaze over this. We've talked about it before. It's really helpful. Doesn't have to be meditation. It could just be deep breathing. Whatever helps you reduce your stress and promote well-being. Engage in activities that bring you joy. Things that fulfill you. Things that make you feel good. Try to create a structured routine that balances your rest and recovery with your productivity. This allows for predictability and stability. You've got to set realistic and achievable goals. If you want to get out of autistic burnout, you've got to practice self-compassion. You have to avoid self-judgment. As autistic people, near impossible. You've just got to try. Burnout is not a personal failure. It's a natural response to an autistic person being bombarded with overwhelming circumstances. Seek out sensory-friendly environments, even activities that promote sensory regulation, things that feel good to you, things that calm you. Practice being more assertive. Actually practice communicating your needs, your boundaries. Use the tools and strategies you know work for you when you're overwhelmed. For some people, journaling, writing down what they're going through, their experiences, their feelings. For some people, that's a really powerful tool to navigate out of autistic burnout. If you don't like writing, you could just say it, you could record it, talking, or you could just talk to yourself. Try to encourage yourself to engage in some sort of physical activity. Just get your body moving to some degree, preferably in fresh air. Releases tension and increases endorphins. Instead of just trying to get back into things, gradually reintroduce things like social interactions. So you're doing it at a pace that feels comfortable to you. It's also important to engage in activities that promote emotional well-being, not just physical well-being, but emotional well-being. What are they? Are they listening to music? Are they reading books? Are they watching your favorite shows? Some sort of creative outlet. But what also works is practicing some self-gratitude. Continue to work that self-advocacy muscle at work, at home, at school, with friends, with family. Convey your needs, your boundaries. Ask about some possible accommodations or supports that can help you not experience this so much. Try and learn and use stress reduction practices, stress management techniques, things like muscle relaxation, guided imagery, even cognitive restructuring, things that somehow manage your stress. This is a big one. Develop a plan for your ongoing self-care. In other words, you're developing a plan to reduce stress, anxiety, and these types of burnouts in the future. Building in more regular breaks, setting appropriate boundaries, working out effective coping strategies, having a plan going forward, a game plan. Autistic burnout can really feel like you don't want to be near anyone. You want to just go in a cave, hide away from the world and do nothing. But actually, one of the ways of navigating out of autistic burnout is to actually seek the connection of some. And maybe this is with other autistic people experiencing it too. There might be online groups or forums or chats you can be a part of autistic people who have experienced or are experiencing burnout. That kind of connection can really help you. As always, you need to use visual supports, things that work always. Well, they're going to work when you're in burnout as well, because they kind of do the work for you. You know, things like visual schedules and checklists. Try and make the practice of effective time management just a set and forget. In other words, prioritize the tasks of the day that are important to you, and you break them down into small, manageable steps. Don't try to do too much. Ask yourself, are your boundaries reasonable? Do you need to set them to be more reasonable for you and your needs? Limit your commitments. Reduce your obligations. Do activities that promote self-expression, things that provide you an outlet. And look for things you haven't tried before. Maybe there are apps, assistive technologies, groups, people, things that are there to actually help you in these situations. Try the things you haven't tried before, things that may get you out of a thing you've never been able to get out of before using something like this. Autistic burnout is real, my friends. Don't kid yourself. It's legit. I hope this video has helped you navigate your way through it. I just hope you don't experience it anytime soon. If you have an idea or a topic for an upcoming video, I'd love to see your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for your support. I really do appreciate it. Until my next video, thanks for watching. Talk soon.